As you know, my last name begins with a W. Growing up in the 60s, everything was done by alphabetical order. So I was always at the end of the line. I find out that it's come to bite me once again this evening. I thank Sue for leaving the microphone at the height that it's at. I'm not going to move it. But the first thing I want to do is say two things. Judd talked about I started him as a freshman. One of the seniors that Judd was placed in front of was Bill Tierney. And Bill and I have shared that experience and that story that Fran mentioned to you, and that's very close to my heart. The other thing I want to share with you is the fact that my speech, my talk is 7 pages, but it's very large print. The other thing is I want to talk to Fran, if I can, just very quickly to the side. Fran, have you and I talked personally on the phone in the last 15 days? He said no. Fran, have you ever been to my house in Florida?
No, I have not.
He said no again. Fran, have you ever been on my personal computer?
Not that I'm aware of.
He said no for the 3rd time. Then how the hell, Fran, can you take 5 out of the 7 pages that I've spent time to write and shared it with a group of people? Well, you know, the other thing I've learned over time is there's always a story behind the story. Fran has forced me to tell a lot of stories behind the story because you've already heard them. Okay, I'm going to start with some thank yous. First of all, to all of my players over 13 years and 2 of my assistant coaches, a lot who are in the room this evening. To Mike Gertz, your AD, Sandy Morley, the C Club president, Coach Bevel, Frank Millard, my sponsor, for getting to this position this evening, and good friends at my table, Joan and Jack Emmer, Nancy and Al Stockholm, Kathy and Mike Sincata, and last but not least, my little rock, my wife Susie. I was fortunate to have a lot of great players over my 13 years. We share many memories of hard-fought victories, interesting road trips, NCAA tournaments, and 2 national championships during the 70s and 80s. More than the wins and losses, the thing I cherish most are the lessons I learned from my players and the successes they have achieved after graduating from Cortland. They've all become wonderful husbands, fathers, grandfathers, and men since attending Cortland State. Please allow me now to share a few quick stories with you about Cortland lacrosse in the 70s. In 1971, Cortland lacrosse had a great season, losing only 1 game, but was not selected to play in the 8-team NCAA tournament. In those years, we had to fundraise to make up for budget shortfalls. Coach Emmer was looking for a catchy phrase for our buttons and bumper stickers the players were required to sell. I told him I thought it could help, so I called my college coach, Mickey Cochran, to see if he had any ideas. Mick would write a limerick for each game we played, so I thought he might have some good ideas. After about 3 days, he came back to me and said, Chuck, how about avenge the screw in 72? Unfortunately, on the buttons, we used the word screw. In hindsight, we probably could have used the fastener that you're aware of when you go to a hardware store, but we did not. We wanted to avenge the screw in '72. The rest is history. We sold every one of the 5,000 bumpers and bumper stickers we ordered. Following the '72 season, we were one of 8 teams nationally to be selected for the NCAA tournament. In the first round, we were selected to play the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. After a hard-fought back-and-forth game, we won 10-9 in overtime. The following Saturday, we hosted the University of Virginia at Davis Field in front of over 6,000 fans. The president, Dr. Jones, moved graduation up to 12 noon. Let me repeat that. The president moved graduation up to 12 noon so that following graduation, all of the graduates' parents and guests could come down to the stadium to support the lacrosse team. We lost to Virginia in that game, but finished as one of the top 4 teams in the country that season. Some of you might not know or remember the gas crisis in the 70s. As I mentioned, the modest budget earlier, we were all set to make the preseason scrimmage to West Point in 8 cars. 8 cars. The small problem we faced was the fact that gas was sold to you on odd and even days, depending on your license plate number. Some of the players had to borrow even-numbered license plates so they could make the trip. After a successful scrimmage at West Point, we left about 6 p.m. for Cortland. As we headed northwest, getting gas was scarce. We would pull into gas stations just to see if some drops were left in the hose. I finally pulled into my driveway about 1 p.m. that morning and told my wife it was a really long day. She said, "Chuck, your day is not over." A car full of players stopped for some coffee in Deposit, New York, and were eyewitnesses to a hit-and-run accident of a drunk man crossing the street. They were real low on gas and didn't think they could make it home. I called my assistant coach, Jerry Kashani, and told him we had to go to Deposit, New York to pick up some players. Having no gas left in my car, the 2 of us went to the ice arena and raided the Zamboni room for needed gasoline. As I pulled into my driveway from the trip back from Deposit, the sun was rising. I will close with one more story I'll call, "You Can't Judge a Book by Its Cover." Coach Emmer and I had some team rules which included cutting hair to a reasonable length, traveling with a coat and tie, among others. John Evans had hair a bit longer than Jack and I felt was reasonable. So we told him he had to cut his hair. John felt that was something he could not do, so we told him he could not play. A few days later, the captains came to meet with us and told us that John would wear any uniform we gave him. He would wear a coat and tie, but his hair was part of who he was. Jack and I discussed it and agreed to change our position. Thank the Lord we did. Johnny helped me to learn such a valuable lesson when I was only 25 years of age. Johnny was an art maker who made, I capitalized it on my notes, M-A-D, he made his own 3-piece corduroy suit for away games. John also designed a new over 60 dragon for the game shirts and shorts of our 2-year-old 60 and over Cortland team. Now Judd is getting involved in what I had already written. They played in the Lake Placid Classic in August and will play in the Florida Lacrosse Classic in Weston, Florida this coming January 17th. The pace of play is slower, sort of like, no offense, it's sort of like baseball. So, you know, you can sit, you can eat a hot dog, and you don't miss a thing. My favorite play has been the face-off. I think most of you in the room know what the face-off of lacrosse looks like. Unlike the women, the men get down on all fours. Imagine two 60-plus guys getting down on their hands and knees. The whistle blows. The ball scoots out. Someone picks it up, and they begin to go to the goal. You look back at the face-off X, and here are two 60-year-old guys helping one another to get up. Well, other than Judd and Fran, it's been a fun night. But seriously, Cortland has been wonderful to me in allowing me to start my career here. Many thanks, and thank you very much.